As the boomer generation ages, the female half will be in one of the stages of menopause. The stats say 50% of Canadian women will be in a stage of menopause in the next few years. Look out. Once a month or so, we invite researcher, author, and nutritional medicine expert Lorna Vanderhaeghe to Studio 4 to sort through health issues. It is my pleasure to welcome her back to the broadcast to tell us more.
Well, it's always my pleasure to be here.
Well, you know, I just kind of quipped, look out. And not everybody has to look out when a menopausal woman comes down the street.
No.
Especially if they're handling it well. But if they're not, look out.
Well, sure, because this is a huge change. You know, just like when you were a teenager, and if you've had a teenage girl in your house, when they start getting periods, everything is very emotional. Then when those periods stop, you go through the same mood swings and depression and anxiety and weight gain, and you don't feel like yourself, you can't remember anything, you're getting hot flashes, you're sweating profusely. It's not good.
Well, why do some women sail through without much of a symptom and others don't?
Well, a lot
What's
of
happening in the body?
Well, there is something actually happening. Our adrenal glands, which are two little glands that sit on top of your kidneys, they're your backup hormone system. They're also the glands that deal with stress in your life. So if you've been going like the Duracell bunny and living under tons of stress during your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you hit 50, and those adrenals are tired, and they don't kick in and make your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and DHEA. And as a result, women who have virtually no symptoms have great functioning adrenal glands, and women who have tons of symptoms, their adrenals are exhausted or tired, and they are not making the backup hormones. So we've got to love our adrenals, and we have to deal with stress better, because this chronic, unrelenting stress that a lot of women are under, raising families, cleaning your house, looking after things, is really a problem, because long term your backup hormone system isn't going to work.
Okay, so multitasking mania, superwoman, all of that. What's all the talk about estrogen dominance? Where does that fit in?
That's a big problem, and it affects men and women and our children. And a lot of people don't understand that we've actually got too much estrogen going on in our environment and our bodies. And when we're under stress, we produce more estrogen as well. So estrogen dominance is something that you see in conditions like breast lumps, endometriosis, ovarian cysts, heavy periods, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility. So when we see younger women with all of these problems, acne, these are early warning signs that you are overloaded with estrogen. And if you don't do something about it, you end up with, you know, hysterectomies and unnecessary breast biopsies and all these things going on from too much estrogen. And in men, they get man boobs and beer bellies and no sex drive. And that's the reason why Viagra is making so much money right now, is because too much estrogen in a man. Men are always shocked they have estrogen, but they do.
Right, they do.
And when your adrenal glands in men, when they're under stress, their testosterone converts to estrogen, and their adrenals make more estrogen, and that's why they get the beer bellies in the breasts and go bald and all of those kinds of things.
Well, you called beer bellies estrogen bellies before.
Yes.
Because?
Yes, we see a lot of, well, beer bellies and breasts in men as a result of the conversion of testosterone into estrogen.
What makes a man do that, or what makes a male body do that?
Well, obesity, being overweight, under tons of stress, lots of stress will do it as well. We see also testosterone convert to another hormone called DHT, which is linked to hair loss in men, baldness, and also prostate cancer. So men should be aware of all these things. You know, if you're a 25-year-old and you're losing your hair profusely, you know, we would look, natural medicine would look at getting the stress levels under control, changing the diet, giving men and women nutritional supplements that keep their estrogen to the other hormones in balance.
Okay, if you're male or female and you have none of these symptoms, could you still be estrogen heavy?
You could, absolutely, but we see so much of the estrogen-like conditions, the estrogen overload symptoms in men and women today, that I think in our environment, considering pesticides fit right into your estrogen receptors. You know, we heard about BPA in the baby bottles. That's only one of thousands of different estrogenic chemicals you're exposed to. Soy foods are estrogenic. Stress causes high estrogen levels. I mean, it would be unusual for a North American to be, you know, what we would call estrogen deficient.
Okay.
That's actually rare, and Dr. Geraldine Pryor even talked about the fact that women well into their 80s were making lots of estrogen, and that's the reason why we have estrogen receptor positive breast cancers and other hormone related cancers in high numbers in women over the age of 50.
There was a study done, released, I think, on the weekend, headlines in the Vancouver Sun today about mammograms, and that women, it's too complex to go into, really,
Right.
and it is just one study. But headline reads, breast screening not needed for all women.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they really pointed out that women under the age of 50 should not have mammograms because of the number of false positives. And a false positive means they tell you they found something when they didn't. The interesting thing, and they had like 63% false positives. That's not new. Every study that looks at false positives has found the same kind of result. The false negatives as well are a problem, where they miss the cancer when they do a mammogram, and that's around 43%. So, you know, I've always been, I wrote a book on breast cancer called Move Over Mammogram. And the publisher didn't want to take it with that title because they were so worried about upsetting the apple cart.
Right.
But I said, we're at a point, you know, when mammograms first came in, we fought to have them paid for by medical because we didn't have a diagnostic technique. Now we're at a crossroads where we need a better diagnostic technique. And I think we need to start pushing to have things like breast MRI.
Okay, is that more radiation, less, or?
No radiation.
No radiation.
No breast compression, because the oncologists actually have a concern about mammograms, because when we squeeze that breast into a pancake, if you've got a breast cancer in there, most breast cancers are encapsulated, you can pop that capsule, which is a problem. So, and there's lots of breast trauma, and it's painful, and a lot of women avoid them. And I think we're at a place where we need to push for breast MRI, and they need to set up clinics where they can do them affordably.
Right.
And women can, you know, have better detection methods. And, you know, in the US, they have breast MRI clinics where you can go and pay your money and have it done.
No, I understand. But I have friends, and you have friends, I'm sure, who thank the cancer god because they had a mammogram and they found the little cancer, and they lived to tell the tale. So
I agree.
I know you're into prevention, and I'm into prevention, but what to believe and who to believe, like my oncologist, most oncologists would say, make sure you get your mammogram.
Right, of course, because they want, that's our only detection method at this point, except for we could also have breast ultrasound. Because if they find something on a mammogram that they think is suspicious, they send you for a breast ultrasound. So it's always confused me as to why not do breast ultrasounds, which are less invasive, much more comfortable, and maybe more women would have them, because a lot of women avoid mammograms.
I understand.
Yeah.
And there's another thing about finding a lump anywhere in your body. It's
Oh,
important that you check it out.
Of course. Of course.
But the stress you go through if they find a lump, you know, and it takes 2 weeks to find out if the lump is benign.
It's frightening.